Welcome to Concepts in American Government at Mesa Community College. This video looks at congressional redistricting. Let's now look at the politics of how we decide who actually goes to Congress. Now, the Constitution provides that the seats of Congress will be determined by a process of reapportionment and redistricting that is pegged to the national census that occurs every decade. Now, reapportionment is where, after the census, we calculate where everybody lives, and we redecide how many representatives of Congress come from each state. And as states gain in population relative to other states, they will gain representation. Whereas if states lose in population, they will lose in representation. In the 2000 census, Arizona gained a congressional seat. We now have 8 members of Congress. It is anticipated, because of our population growth over the past decade, that the 2010 census will result in Arizona gaining another congressional seat, possibly 2, depending on the results of the census. That means that we would then send 9 or 10 members to Congress rather than the 8 that we are when this presentation was recorded in the summer of 2010. Now, redistricting is a different issue. Once it has been determined that the number of members from a state that's going to Congress increases or decreases, the lines for where those congressional districts are have to be redrawn. So again, in Arizona, we will likely gain 1 or 2 members of Congress. That means that the existing 8 boundaries lines are going to have to be redrawn so that there are 10 boundaries that equally, number-wise, equally represent the state. If we look at this map of apportionment, which again was published at the end of the 2000 census, it shows us how many representatives each state has and how many states gained or lost from the decade of the 1990s to the decade of the 2000s. In 2011, a new map will be produced based on the 2010 census that will have the new mix of numbers. There are 435 representatives in Congress, and that number does not increase. And so which states those representatives are drawn from will vary. Now again, as it's expected, Arizona will gain 1, maybe 2 seats, which means that other states will likely lose a seat or 2 as their populations have declined in relation to the population in Arizona. When the reapportionment maps are drawn and the census tally is finished, and all the new lines have to be drawn from states that either gained or lost representatives, then a real political battle ensues over how to redraw the lines, how to redistrict each state. The stakes are very high in this battle, and it happens once a decade after each reapportionment. The illustrations on this slide demonstrate how 2 different plans, depending on where you draw the lines, can radically alter the representation even if the population stays the same. So here in this example, we have a hypothetical group. To be nonpartisan about it, we'll call it the blues and the greens. And in this congressional district, 2/3 of the people who live there are loyal fans of blue, whereas 1/3 of them are diehard greens. Now, the Green Party would prefer that the district lines be drawn horizontally. The blue and green represent where these people live. Now, if it's the Green Party has its way and the lines are drawn horizontally, District 1 and District 2 will elect blues, which is to be understood because 2/3 of the state are blue in loyalty. Whereas District 3 will guarantee that a green will be elected because its boundaries correspond to where the Greens live. It's a way to guarantee green representation in Congress. The Blue Party has a very different plan, though, for redistricting. They want to draw the lines vertically. So District 1, District 2, and District 3 each represent the composition of the entire state, which is 2/3 blue, 1/3 green. And the lines are not drawn to protect a green representative. Rather, the Greens end up with no representative because each one of the districts have a blue majority in them. So if the lines are drawn vertically, the blues end up with an extra seat in Congress than if the lines are drawn horizontally. Well, you can imagine the political battle between these two parties over how those lines could be drawn. And this is the battle that occurs in state houses across the country in the year after an election. As the majority party in each state battles to draw the lines in a way that favors their party and locks in their party's electoral success for the next decade until the next census, when the lines will be redrawn and they do it all over again. Now, this is one policy area that Arizona is very different from the rest of the country. Arizona has a unique and fairly innovative system for redistricting. The system was voted in by a ballot proposition in the late 1990s, and it created a redistricting commission. And this commission is composed of 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and 1 independent. And the independent chairs the commission. Now, this commission was also given guidelines to specify how they draw the lines. They're required to take into account things like interstate highways, natural boundaries. It was an attempt to prevent the gerrymandering, which is where you draw a bizarre line. Like if we look at Congressional District number 2 here, you see there's an island of 2 in the middle of 1 with a squiggly tail connecting the 2 of them so that the district can be contiguous. Now that's called gerrymandering, and that's normal in most states for most districts. But you see in Arizona, we only have 1 district that is configured that way. And those boundaries correlate to a native tribe that needed to be part of Congressional District 2. So this commission is required to come up with a nonpartisan solution that maximizes representation as opposed to maximizing the electoral outcome of a particular political party. In Arizona, it would be the Republican Party because the Republicans have had a majority in the legislature for decades, and so the lines would be drawn in a way that would favor the Republican Party. Instead, the Redistricting Commission does it in a nonpartisan way. No other state does this. Every other state, it is still the majority political party gets to draw the lines in a way that favors. This video is brought to you by Dr. Brian Dilley. I'm a political science professor at Mesa Community College, one of the 10 schools of the Maricopa District.